Welcome to the Blackburn End podcast. After a positive start, it all comes crashing down as two away trips bear no fruit. It's Halloween season and we were treated to two horrific displays. So let's get into those headlines. So a midweek away trip to Coventry gives Rovers nightmares once again as we lose 3-0. Rovers nearly steal a point at Plymouth only to have it snatched away at the death. The international break gives the boys a well-earned rest because whilst fans are disappointed with the last two games, it has been a great start to the season. And on a positive note, Ohashi does get a call up to the Japanese national side for the first time. I'm not on my own to digest these two outrageous games that we've just played. Mark, how are you feeling?
I think I'd have felt better if I'd have had a honeymoon in Burnley, if I'm being honest.
I've never heard it put that way, but I get what you're saying. Oh, mate, we're going to get to our audios in a bit. I mean, I'm not going to lie, I'd had a few drinks after watching both of these. And the worst thing is I could actually remember them after. I wish I'd forgotten about them. But when we do these podcasts, we do go through them again, don't we? And we have to relive them just to make sure we remember what we remembered. And It was horrible, horrible week. So should we get into the Coventry game first, Mark?
Why not?
Okay, right. So let's do the usual. These are our match reaction audios. You can tell I'm slurring my words a little bit and trying to dull my voice down just a little bit as not to wake the kids. Mark, let's play these ones.
Well, that was bloody horrific. I'm not sure if you can beat these, so I'll be as careful as I can. Let's blame ourselves, Mike. We said we were going to jinx it. We looked like we were playing on a different pitch. We couldn't pass 5 yards. It looked like it was harder going running in it for us. We were just bloody awful, let's be honest. It's got to, I'm struggling to take any positives. It's got to be a one-off, a blip. It was always going to happen at some point. And if we go to Plymouth and win, we all know 3 points is better than 2. My maths is good there, you see. So we would have took 2 draws, but we knew it was going to happen. It's just got to be a blip and not the norm. Like we said, keep the same energy. They've got plenty of money in the bank with us as supporters, but that was bloody awful.
I bloody hate Coventry, mate. Just every time we seem to play them, it's a poor game for us. And yeah, we were true to form on that front. We weren't convinced on the pod, were we, about this Coventry game going away midweek, and we'll prove right. But yeah, just a inept performance. When the game started, it seemed to be quite end to end, and I thought, oh, this could break out into an exciting game. But you know, their goal, free kick across, was a good goal to be fair to them. But yeah, just terrible, terrible. Hate it. Hate Coventry. Annoying. Yeah, I'm not a fan of Coventry. I think since I joined the company I work for now, where they're based in Coventry, I just don't like the club. I don't like the club, and we do horrible against them. And it was one of those games again. It was, like I said in my reaction, I think it was end to end at times, and it seemed like it would break out into an exciting game. I still had hope for the Plymouth game coming up, so I didn't feel too negative. How did you feel listening back to your match reaction? Do you agree with what your first reaction on that?
Yeah, I don't think I was too impressed, was I? It was just a miserable evening, wasn't it, really? The pitch looked really heavy, but heavier for us. That's what I was trying to get at. I think we had a couple of players looking every inch their age, a couple of players looking every inch the amount of games they've played. And I think leaving that game, my solace was, well, Coventry are better than what they're showing at the minute, albeit they didn't show that again at weekend. And it was kind of going to happen. Let's hope we learn from it, and let's hope Eustace learns from it. And if we'd have had a podcast in between, my standing with it would have been really, well, Eustace has learned every single time up to now. I've no reason to doubt this will be any different. So obviously we'll move on to Plymouth in a minute, but that was my big surprise. I think in isolation, this game, you can understand why he kept pretty much the same team. You can understand why Danny Bath played again. because they've kept clean sheets. I could understand why he did it, and I wasn't pointing any fingers of blame at Eustace. However, it was very, very disappointing, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I like what you said there, because it is hard to look at this in isolation when you know what happens in the game after, because there were some positives at times. Like I said, we did seem to get forward, but it just seemed very toothless. We'd mentioned about Ohashi needing a break, and yet he started again. I think it was pretty obvious he was getting tired, but we just looked like strangers. Cantwell got his first start, and at times we looked at him, and you could see that quality. And I don't want to bash Dolan. He was getting a lot of pelters on social media, and we'll get into how he started the second half. But it just felt like it felt like they were strangers, and it was all because of tiredness. We are a team that needs to rotate. We don't have the fittest of players. You can tell that they do tend to slow down towards the end of games. And when they have a run of games, we'd mentioned Hedges obviously being one of those that needed a rest. He dropped out of the starting 11. But yeah, it felt very lackluster, but from both sides as well. Like I said, their goal was a decent goal. It was a good cross, good finish. That people were saying Perez should have saved it. Okay, yeah, we could get into the ins and outs of Perez throughout all these goals, but I don't point the finger at him for any of the goals that he conceded over the last two games necessarily. We'll get into that, but it just seems half-assed. I think I'd put it that way.
It was certainly lacking in energy, wasn't it? I think what I've seen, when we are not firing and Ohashi's up front, then we look like we've no outlet at all. That's my concern sometimes. And that's, again, what it felt like. I think we are a team that, to get anything from games, has to outwork the opposition or at least match them. And it just showed in the legs. I didn't blame any of them. I don't think there was a lack of effort. I think they just were really, really struggling physically. And what did worry me was confidence-wise, I thought we looked a little bit like that had been eroded a little bit by the end of the game, which is surprising considering the run we've been at. But for me, the top and bottom of this game was that, particularly Sondre Tronstad, was nowhere near at it. And I don't think it was a performance thing. He just looked like he was running with weights on his legs. And Travis was having to cover for him time and time again, which is just not what happened. And if you lose the midfield battle in the Championship, you're going to struggle in any game.
Yeah, definitely. And I felt like the Travis Tronstad thing works most of the time. And like you said, if one of them starts to slow down, I don't think the other one has necessarily the ability at Championship level to be able to hold their own. And hindsight's 2020. It did need rotation. Starting the second half, I had a lot more confidence that we'd come out and go for it and actually get something. We shot ourselves in the foot. But that first half, we did have opportunities, didn't we? And it just didn't seem to fall our way. And we relied on Perez for a few saves in that first half. Did you feel like watching it? It was a matter of time before we did get an opportunity and take it, or did you think it was just going to be one of those days, just taking the first half into consideration?
I mean, both teams undercooked a lot of back passes, didn't they? And I think that was partly down to the pitch. But you just felt, surely we've got to take one of these. And then, and again, I've said it a few times now, but I think the pitch played a factor, I think, in terms of us, our turn of pace. But that was when I thought at half time, right, if we bring on our fresh legs, bring on, probably the one in my mind was Cozy Dewberry. Can we get some fresh legs and some energy around their back line? They're already looking nervy. They're undercooking these back passes. Can we capitalise on it? So then to come out and, like you say, absolutely shoot ourselves in the foot was just, obviously, but the worst thing we could have done, wasn't it? Because that pretty much killed it then for me.
Exactly. So we may as well talk about that now, because that first half was, like I say, end to end. We did have the opportunities. They just took one of their chances, and we didn't take any of theirs. But coming out, I felt like we had the quality to turn it. I felt like we had the bench to be able to turn the game. But Dolan, I really believe he just forgot which way he was attacking, because the way he tracked back with that ball dribbling, he was attacking that wing like he meant it. And it just, I was astounded. I looked and I was like, I questioned myself. I'm like, are we shooting that way? Have we not swapped like halves? It's because he attacked that wing and then just played that ball. I thought, what a cross. And then it's like, oh no, that's a back pass to one of his players. And the error actually went down as Hyam's error, which is a bit harsh. But yeah, it's one of those where it was deflected as well, I think, as it went in. So I just felt that was the moment then where I was like, this is game over. With the way we were playing, we was never going to get 2 goals. Yeah, I just think that completely killed the game, and we didn't respond well, did we?
Not at all. And I feel like I've seen that game before at Coventry. It felt deja vu. I mean, it was a poor ball out to Dolan anyway. And then he didn't really have anywhere to go, but then he still managed to make it even worse. It was then a poor ball to, was it Hyam he played it to? Then that was a poor ball to Bath. It was just, surely at half time, everyone's saying, right, keep it tight, or let's get on the front foot, put them under pressure. They've not been winning. They're going to be nervous. And to come out like that was just an absolute shambles. As a manager, you must just want to bang your head against the wall at that point.
Yeah, and he did bring Hedges on for Dolan on the 55th. I expected more subs then, did you?
I couldn't believe there was only, was it just Hedges, wasn't it, that came on at that point?
Yeah,
I
so
couldn't believe
55th
it. Yeah.
minute, Hedges came on for Dolan, then there was no subs
Yep.
till the 71st minute. I was
No,
astounded by that.
For me, that game, the only way you could even get anything out of it, like we both said, the second goal went in. For me, the writing was on the wall. The only way you're going to get something out of it is completely changing the flow of the game, getting a quick goal and looking like you've got some attacking intent. So yeah, to just bring Hedges on at that point, I thought, that's odd, because it was obvious that Bath, Tronstad, Campwell maybe even, or Hashi, all looked way off the pace. And that looked because of fitness. So it wasn't like they were having a bad game and they could play their way back into form for me.
No, and we're not a team where I look at anyone and I say they've got a bad attitude. Like the kind that throw their arms up like, "Oh, game's gone, I'm done." This team and squad, I don't get that feeling off any of the players. They're all normally a big ball of energy, keep going.
Yeah.
But it did have a sense of they're playing with the sense of inevitability that we've lost this game. Let's just see it out or go home and reset for the next one. And it was a bit hard to watch because we've said that what's been successful for us at the start of the season was the energy, was the fact that the lads all seem to be just constantly positive, get forward, get the ball down, be confident, and the subs were coming at the right time, and all of that just completely went for this game. And I was hoping it would be an isolated incident. We will get into that Plymouth one, but when Baker and Cozier, Dubry came on, it just felt like it was far too late.
Yeah, completely agree. It's I never once thought it was a lack of effort. I did think there was a point where they lost faith in what they were doing, which is something we've talked about, that they've all got full faith in what they do. And that can sometimes sap your energy. But equally, I lost faith in it as well. I was looking at Hayden Carter, who, I think absolutely the world of. I think he's going to be a tremendous footballer. But one thing he can't do that well is turn when he's up against a tricky winger. And he's not really had that for a few weeks. He's played 3 games. He's looked good. He's looked good going forward. But then you look back and you think, he's been against 10 men twice. The moment he's had a really good winger against him in Hadji Wright, the moment somebody's hugged that touchline, wanted to take him on, he struggled. And equally, Danny Bath was having a shocker. So I thought, and so was Hyam. So for me, the simple solution was put Carter back where he should be. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't seem to change formation because even though Pickering came off for Koji Dewberry and pushed him up a little bit, it just no. Who went left back? Was it Baker who went left back?
Hedges went back to left back, didn't he? Like he had against
He went back to left back.
QPR.
Yeah, so it just seems a bit of. It just seemed like we'd just not given up because that's probably the wrong word, but it was like we're on to the next game. Like let's just forget about this one and carry on. And the third goal goes in. I wasn't sure if the second one was deflected. I'm getting all the goals mixed up over the week. But the third one was definitely deflected. So Pear's got a few pelters for this, and he should save it. If you look, it was deflected in front of him, and that's really difficult in these conditions. Long game, you know, poor game, concentration's lacking. So I'm not going to blame him for that, but it's just a horrible place to go, Coventry, for us. And I've said it in the last one, you know, when I ever go there, they've got loud fans, you know, even though they don't necessarily sell out or have a lot of fans there, they are loud. And we shot ourselves in the foot. And there was only that first goal I felt like they earned it. Coventry actually earned it. Everything else just seemed like us giving them gifts. And it did feel like a game that we just lost it early in that second half, and that was it. I mean, I wanted to turn off and just forget about it. But obviously, because we do this, I couldn't do that. I needed to get all the information so we could chat about it. Was there actually anyone where you looked at and you actually felt positive after the game, or was it a team effort to fail at this one?
Not for me, because Dewberry came on, looked a little bit nice, and then he just played completely the wrong ball. It was, I mean, I felt sorry for Harry Pickering. He got some pelters as well. And you look at Pickering, he clearly wasn't fit against QPR. He clearly wasn't fit again. He looked way off it. And he's had an illness. I don't know what the illness is, but if you've had a stomach bug or you're feeling a bit grotty, your energy levels are sapped anyway. So to then play 2 games after he's been injured, and then be on the, such a heavy pitch, and you've got someone running at you constantly, and you think, oh, God, I've not got this in me. It felt like he wasn't alone in that, though. There has been a bug going around the squad, hasn't there? And it looked like that could well be all it was. You don't know. But, yeah, I think if they could have turned the game off and gone, right, let's just call it 2-0, we'll quit match, as they might have done in EA 25, then, yeah.
Yeah, definitely wanted to rage quit on this one. Yeah, like we said at the start, it was a game screaming to have a little bit more rotation. Like you just said, illness and injuries have come around, and obviously Eustace felt like he didn't need to rotate or couldn't rotate. I mean, Duru, was he even available for right back?
I think he played in the 21s, didn't he? So he certainly wasn't on the bench, was he?
No, so...
But yeah, Joe Rankin Costello was.
Well, that's the other one, isn't it? I mean, yeah, so you had McFadden, JRC, Sigurdsson on the bench as well that weren't used. Yeah, some strange decisions there. It's still in Eustace we trust, especially not talking about the next game. So let's just finish off this game talking about the fan reactions. So these are the people that have commented on the full-time post that went out. Obviously, they didn't know what was going to happen in the next game, so some bit more positive. James put, bad day at the office, let's chalk it off. We were poor, but let's not undermine the start that we've had. Long-time listener of the pods, Aaron Boyce, word is that Dolan is still running off down the M6 with the ball. Spot on. I genuinely, I had no idea where he was running to in that second half. Poor that. Didn't look arsed. Bit of complacency slipping in. Given the starts, we can let that slide as long as it's a one-off. Can't afford that to become a habit. So this one I wanted to bring up, and it's something we'll talk about later in the pod. I do think that there is some fans, and this is just the nature of football and football fans, that are just like, oh, this is it now. It's terrible, awful, typical Rovers and things like that. And yeah, it probably is. But I don't want us to lose sight of the fact that we have had this great start to the season. And to be honest, there are some positive, there's still some positive comments here, but there are a lot of fans that seem to be quite upset still about the performance more than anything else. But we did have the 3-word reviews, Mark. Have you got any favourites?
Yeah, I think the main ones, we did have some same old Rovers sent to Coventry. Obviously, somebody changes on Saturday. We'll come to that. Loss was needed from Ghazi Vision, back to reality. But I think the one that we should probably mention, Mike, was Les Campbell said, "You jinxed it." and we did, didn't we? We did everything in our power to jinx this. When you listen back, we've had a shocker.
We had our moments where we said we was worried, but we just try to be positive, don't we, Mark? And sometimes it's at a fault. We don't like to predict against our own club. So yeah, on behalf of Mark and myself, we do apologise, but we don't apologise for trying to be positive and seeing the positives. But now I normally ask you a quick 1-word answer. Are you happy with the performance and results? I think I know the answer.
Let's go with no.
Exactly. I'm a no on that one. So we come off that performance and we think to ourselves, right, we've learnt a lesson here. It was a long away trip midweek. We're gonna rotate the squad. Everything's gonna be better for the next game. We go down to Plymouth and there's no real rotation in the squad of note. Gay comes in for Ohashi, obviously, and Hedges gets his start back. Was you surprised with that starting lineup, or was you expecting a little bit more rotation?
I was absolutely astounded. Couldn't understand it one iota.
So if you try and understand it, what do you think his thinking is with it?
The only thing I could think was, has the bug been around the squad? And actually, they're all okay now. Because based on what I'd seen to the eye test on Tuesday, I didn't need sports scientists to tell me what percentage, whether they're in the red zone, whether they're at risk of injury. They were not good enough physically to play that extra game. So there's no way on God's green earth that by Wednesday, so they've got home early hours Wednesday, so most of them live in Manchester, those sorts of areas. So they got back in Blackburn, say 12. They've got home at 1, 2. They're back in for recovery day Wednesday. Thursday, they'll do some light jogging, a bit of tactics and set pieces. Friday, they'll touch over it and then they'll do travel all the way down to Plymouth. There's no way they are going to be any better condition than they were on Tuesday. And there was too many of them way off it. So the fact that he only changed Hedges, who's looked like he's needed a rest anyway, and Gay was... It's the first time before a game I've gone, I'm questioning that decision. There's times where I would have slightly done things differently, but I was actually really questioning his starting 11. I didn't understand it.
Yeah, I mean, we've got some audio from our initial match reaction that I'll play now. Now, just a warning, I had a drink. So I think I've tried to slow my words down way more than I normally would to try and be articulate, but I actually sound like there's something wrong with me. So let's just play it. Oh, geez, Mark, what are we going to do with this team? It was all so positive and we was enjoying it while it lasted, but petering out. I just hope that we react from this going into this international break and getting the lads away because they look tired. The subs were good. I thought the subs coming on were fresh, but I just don't feel like we're rotating enough. And we said it before, this team needs rotation. Oh, frustrated. I said I hated Coventry. I now hate Plymouth. We just don't seem to travel too well, and I'm just glad that when we're at home, we're getting some results. But it's going to be a big, big break for us. I hope that Eustace has a plan for these lads to be rested and refreshed, ready for another good run of results. Hope it comes, but yeah, looking forward to the podcast so we can actually chat about it properly, but frustrating.
Gotta say, I absolutely hate football. We didn't really deserve anything on the balance of play, but who'd have thought it? Some fresh legs and players who haven't played 2 games in a week, or 3 games in a week as it then turned out, and the game starts to change. Rankin Costello should have started. Bath looked like he was running in treacle during midweek. Same again. Thought Hyam was pretty poor. Thought Pickering didn't look fit. Far too many of them. Tronstad and Travis way off it. He makes the changes, gets some fresh legs, gets some energy, and we look a different team. But ultimately, it's too little too late. I mean, it should have been out of sight before that. I know they scored in the last kick of the game, but you can't turn up again like that. We've said Eustace, we learn from him. Learn from the mistakes previously. He didn't this week, though, did he? Hopefully, it's just a blip.
Do you know what we sound like? We sound like we've come in drunk as a 16-year-old to our parents, trying to convince them that we're not drunk by trying to talk articulate. Do you know what I mean?
I'm not sure I can talk. That was honestly, Brett, it's the funniest thing I've heard in ages. I mean, I wish you'd have actually sent me that voice note. It would have brightened my day. I'm not sure what was funnier, the way you were trying to articulate your words, or the fact that my little girl in the background sounds like she is a scale electric. I don't know what's going on there. She obviously was just sat there going.
Well, when I was editing that today and putting it together ready for this, I thought to myself, we need to stop doing these. And I'm like, do you know what? I don't think we do, because they do make me laugh, because I do listen to myself. I'm thinking, you sound like an absolute tool. Speaking of tools, obviously, we didn't perform well again, did we?
No, it was absolute crock of it was. But like I said, once I saw the team, it didn't surprise me. I'm gonna fess up. I did put a bet on. I put Hayden Carter to be booked once I saw he was at right back again, and he didn't get booked. But I put Travis to be booked, and I put Michael Obafemi to score because it was obvious. So I didn't win my bet, but that plank still scored.
I just don't feel at any point we looked like we was at the races again, and we looked like a team very similar to the Coventry game, where it just looked strangers. Yeah, I mean, I watched it, and like I said, I'd had a drink, and I was enjoying the fact that I was drinking more than the game. And every time I looked up, yeah, we had a couple of chances, didn't we? I mean, there was a couple of at the start of the game where I felt like there was something coming, but it was all little bits here or there. There was never a spell in the game where you had any kind of control of the ball, where I felt like we had them under control. They always looked like that at any point they could break us down. And I'm not being funny. Coventry and Plymouth are not very good sides at the moment themselves. They're not exactly, the upper echelons of the championship. So to play like we did and be outplayed like we have done the last 2 games is extremely disappointing, considering the start we made. But 100% agree with you. It's completely understandable when you're not rotating the squad. We said that we was really chuffed with the transfer window. We'd really covered some of the bases that we needed to cover. There was people there that could come in and do a job to give others a rest, but yet we don't seem to be doing that. I mean, McFadden, okay, he's an old man now, but why can't he get more of a game over Danny Bath? JRC, he was the toast of the town for Eustace at the start, and suddenly he's not getting a game. It's a strange one. It's a strange one. I would have had JRC at right back and putting Carter into centre back with Hyam again. Like you say, Pickering's had his ups and downs with injury and illness. Pears hasn't really done anything wrong. I mean, we'll get into the goals with that one in a second. But generally, the back four would have picked itself in my view, with JRC at right back, and then everything else is pretty standard. Tronstad and Travis, you said at the start, well, at some point Travis is going to get himself suspended and have to rotate. It's like he's waiting for that to happen before he rotates it. Why not? Why not give Buckley a chance at centre mid and just give someone a break? Very strange. Very strange.
Yeah, Eustace talks about if you play well, you keep your shirt, which is why I understood the Coventry game. I don't think I would have done the same. I think if you'd have come out after the game, changed a winning team and said, well, do you know what? I've changed Danny Barr, I've changed Sondre Tronstad because they're in the red zone, or the sports scientist, or just come out and said, do you know what? They're absolutely knackered. So I had to change them. I'm not going to have a pop at him after the game. If he's changing a winning team, if he explains it, that's fine. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But equally, the players won't have a pop. But forget that. He likes to keep a winning team. He likes to keep people who are playing well. Fine. What's his excuse on Saturday? It's the first time I've really questioned Eustace. I tried not to do it last season because that was isolation. This season, it's the first time I've gone, actually, I can pin that on you. I don't think that's on the players on Saturday. I think if you're going to pick that team knowing the performance levels and the energy levels of Tuesday, and the fact that he said since, well, we wanted to keep it tight, well, then play people like Baker, who's not expansive, but he's going to be able to keep it tight. Why is, Buckley maybe should be playing. I know he thinks JRC is quite expansive as a right back, but there are other options. You've talked about McFadden. Maybe change shape if they're struggling a bit. I thought that was on him, I've got to be honest. And then, lo and behold, you bring on some energy, and actually the game was there for the taking. Because like you've said, Plymouth, although albeit they were by far the better team, I'm not taking that away from them, they did not look a good team. And it was frustrating.
Yeah, and we were unlucky with the first one to an extent. The first goal, it was deflected very heavily. Whether it would have made a difference, I don't know, but it was deflected. But we just didn't look like at any point we was in that game again. And, the equaliser much later into the game, was it against the run of play? Arguably so. So I'm slurring my words again. I'm not drunk. I'm just tired today. But the subs seem to come at the right time this time, and like you say, they seem to be the right subs at the right time, which was great. But yeah, very, very strange decisions from Eustace this time. And I love the fact he's a man manager. He's off that Sam Allardyce kind of mould of, making sure all the players are happy. Happy players play better football. I get that. But sometimes you've got to save them from themselves and actually, like you say, make those changes. You've still got players that are potentially ill. I mean, Siggy's just not getting a sniff at the moment, but there's rumours that he's really ill. Surely he can't still be ill. And like we said, keeping that back four and centre mids was strange, because the way that we play, it is quite a tiring way because of the way we're moving around and getting the ball forward. The one person I wanted to bring up was Gay. I'm starting to see murmurings now of people moaning about Gay and saying he's not the player that we hoped he was in his first few games. Is that a bit harsh?
I said this the other week. I think it's always going to happen when he's not scoring. It doesn't take long then before people start saying, oh, we've played whatever games. He's been out for one of them. He's not played that many minutes when you look at it. I don't think we're utilising him right. I think Maktar Gay's game is all around, he can hold it up and you can play off him. But let's be honest, his game's around floating the ball into the box, much like we used to for Gusted. You don't have to pinpoint that. He's a lot bigger and stronger and better in the air than most defenders. If you float that ball into the right area where the keeper can't come for it, I bet if you did that 4 or 5 times a game, he's going to win 3 or 4 of them and should hit the target. Then it's on him. I don't recall us really doing that at all this season. And on Eustace being a man manager, he is. And it's all well and good putting your arm around players and saying, you're better than this, or, I really rate you. But equally, you're going to lose a lot of the dressing room if you're making decisions that are very difficult to understand. So I can only assume we are missing something here. But it doesn't look like that. You see Buckley, you see JRC having a little chat together on the touchline. And if you're looking at Hayden Carter getting ripped apart for the second game in a row, not Hayden Carter's fault. He's again playing against somebody who's just hugging the touchline. You're seeing Danny Bath struggle because he's tired. And you're going, I can't get on the pitch here. You see people like Vyman, who has come in to play bit parts in games and play key moments, And then he's been out with a foot injury, and they're saying, I don't know if he'll make the game. Then he starts against QPR, then starts 3 days later against Coventry, and then 3 or 4 days later again. I think you quickly lose people because you start saying, these are just bizarre decisions now. Actually, he must really not rate me. That's where I'd be looking at it.
Yeah, and I get that. I mean, the subs, again, Gay came off quite early on the 57th minute. Well, he hasn't actually played a hell of a lot, and yet he's coming off. I mean, that's not a good sign either. Siggy finally got some minutes from the 76th, something like that, and came on, but it's not a hell of a lot. It's there's some decisions there, but I still trust Eustace. Don't get me wrong, and it's a small sample size of the season so far. We are going into the international break, and that is going to make quite a big difference, I hope, positively for us, because now we can get everyone back together. Hashi's obviously been called up to Japan, so he's not going to be there for X amount of days. But hopefully the players that are left, all get some nice, well-earned rest, and then we can come back in firing. Was there anyone that you felt played well? It's a similar question to what I asked about the Coventry game. Was there anyone there that played well? I mean, Hyman Pairs got the highest ratings on as the starters from WeScored.com, but JRC was actually off the bench getting the highest score.
I don't know if I lost you for a few minutes then, Mike, but yes, JRC got the highest score off the bench. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, so sorry. So similar to the question I asked you with Coventry, do you feel like anyone really stood out? So WeScored.com had Hyam and Pairs as the two highest at 7.1 and JRC coming off the bench at 7.2.
I thought Cozy Ajubi looked like he had something. It's the second time off the bench I've seen something where I thought, I can work with that. Thought he looked threatening, he looked direct, he used the ball better, his decisions on the ball were better. And JRC reminded us why he is a very, very good option at right back. Albeit in the right circumstances, I get that. But yeah, I would say those two mainly.
Well, I'm going to ask you in shortly who you think our best 11 is right now, coming out of the international break. So have a think about that one. We obviously come into the end of the game, 10 minutes to go. Things have started to shape up a little bit better for Rovers. And we get the goal, the equaliser, good header by JRC. Oh man, Wayne Rooney was not happy. Do you agree with what he was moaning about? Because I didn't really see what he was moaning about, to be honest.
I have no idea what he was moaning about. He said it was a foul. I'm not. The Plymouth fans are absolutely up in arms, aren't they? Saying it was foul. I've watched it a number of times now, even without my rose-tinted glasses on. I've tried not to. I don't see what they were whinging at.
I was guessing it was earlier in the play. Like I said, I'd had a couple of drinks during the time, and when I've looked back at the highlights, it must have been quite further on in the play. But I thought it was a decent goal. Did you think it was deserved at that point, or do you think we looked like we were stealing something?
I thought, shoe on the other foot, they were missing a hell of a lot of chances. And it was one of them games. If that had been Rovers in their shoes, I would have gone, you'd be turning to your mates and going, this is going to bite us on the arse, this. We're missing too many. And then when, from our point of view, when we made the changes, and we had a, let's be generous, 15-minute spell where actually we upped it a little bit. We started to look like we could cause some trouble and might actually get over the halfway line. And they panicked a bit. And I thought, once it went in, I actually thought, if anyone's going to win it, it's going to be us here. But it would have been completely undeserved.
That seems to be the common thing, wasn't it? Because we was in the ascendancy after that.
Yeah.
Did we actually seem to be pushing on from there, though?
At that point, when the ball went in, I thought I could see us going on to win it, which would have been completely undeserved over the 90. But I felt we got caught between two minds then, which has not been like Eustace's Rovers. That was very much Thomason's Rovers. Some players wanting to go for it, JRC piling forward still. Some others going, oh, what's going on? Eustace's Rovers would usually have gone, do you know what? We've been absolutely shocking the last 2 games. Let's make sure we keep this point and we'll just pack that up and go away. Thank you very much. So I was very surprised we didn't do that.
And obviously we don't. Rovers do Rovers things. They pile forward and they get their goal with effectively one of the last kicks of the game, wasn't it? And I wasn't even surprised, to be honest. I was really flat after it, but I came away and I was so shocked that we'd managed to equalise that I was still in shock over that. That it seemed like the right thing was that they went and scored in a really weird way because we'd been that poor. They'd had that many shots, and I'm a realistic football fan, but I was gutted when it went in because, like we said, like you've said, if you can win your home games and draw your away, you're on the way to a decent, for us, a very good season. And I was just disappointed because it's not like us to play poorly and get something out of games. And we'd started doing that now and again under Eustace. Yeah. And I think that was my main disappointment, was the fact that we'd played poorly and managed to get something. And then we couldn't come out of it saying, oh, we've stolen that. That's great. Sign of a champion being able to do that. How did you feel at the end?
Very similar. And the irony wasn't lost on me that a Dingle scored the first and somebody who they've bid multi-million pounds for and are expected to go back in for in January scored the second. Yeah. I think if we're being fair, it was absolutely the right result. And that was kind of my feeling at the end of the game. Do you know what? You didn't deserve anything from that game. However, it's still goaling, isn't it? When you get it back to 1-1, you're already thinking, right, box that one off. Tough away trip. We've got a point from 2 tougher games. Let's get to the international break and reset. So to have that snatched away, hopefully it is a kick up the rear just in case anyone was getting above this station. I don't think they will have been internally, but yeah.
Yeah, and to break down that goal, Pear's got a few pelters saying that he should have saved it. He was a little bit flat-footed, but it was a solid header into the corner. I don't want to blame Pears too much for any of the goals he's conceded this week, as much as it seems to be the cool thing for everyone just to lay everything on Pears and just say he's awful and he's the reason we concede every single goal. He did give it the token dive, but yeah, I think he was a little bit flat-footed, but there wasn't much he could do. He kept us in the game with some saves in both games. But yeah, I don't think anyone really came out with it with a hell of a lot of credit, but he was one of the ones that probably did. Was there anyone, before we leave this game, was there anyone in particular that really annoyed you? Because there were a few people talking about Dolan.
He doesn't annoy me. It's not a lack of effort. It annoyed me that Harry Pickering was out there again when I felt sorry for him. However, on about the 60th minute, he had some sort of miraculous recovery and actually put in a real good last half hour, which was interesting. I then started to wonder whether it was a lack of confidence with him. But either way, right now, without going into it in too much detail, I will be playing Owen Beck. And I'm a fan of Harry Pickering.
Well, Beck has had a very good start to his Rovers career. I mean, he was a bit silly getting himself sent off, but we said that he put in the kind of performance that was going to make it difficult for Pickering to come back into the squad. Pickering's had his opportunity, but with being a little bit ill and potential injury, he hasn't earned his spot back. But I don't feel like it's his fault that he hasn't earned his spot back.
No, completely agree.
I do think we will move back. We will move back to Beck.
Yeah, in the words of Amy Winehouse.
So we have the fan reaction for these, obviously, after the Plymouth game, after the Coventry game, and now this Plymouth game. There's a little bit more negative. In fact, Aaron's put another one here saying, learn the lesson, start Koji, Dewberry, Ohashi and Cantwell. Decide on the 3 players behind Ohashi and work at it. I completely agree with that. Thomas put Eustace got the starting lineup completely wrong today and couldn't get a response. Lads Hart over 90 minutes, didn't turn up and didn't deserve anything. We got beaten badly all over the pitch for the majority once again. Poor away performances continue, need serious work. In fact, the Plymouth fans put another Rooney masterclass sinks another team. I don't think I've ever seen anyone say Rooney masterclass before about his managerial career. Yeah, there's a few Plymouth fans actually saying we're the worst team to visit them this season by a distance, which is quite interesting to hear. Whether they're just trolling us, I don't know. But after that performance, it is potentially true. And some people saying Eustace has regressed. Yeah, bit harsh. Bit harsh. Someone's even put awful team, got what we deserved. Jeez.
Yeah.
So, that is typical football fans making typical football fan reviews. So, speaking of reviews, what 3-word reviews? Any of your favourites?
Yeah, we've had Stephen Gill, need back. I agree. I mean, just on the Ohashi one, I thought one thing that it did show me was Ohashi's far more effective than Gay off the bench. I think he shows. I think that's the way I would go. But anyway, Graham Bryan's a bloody long journey. Yeah, we feel your pain. John Pawson, interestingly, not sure on your thoughts on this, Mike. Mentality not right.
Yeah, I mean, the mentality thing's difficult because your mentality will only get you so far. You know, if your body can't take you, you know, it doesn't matter what mental state you've got. If you're knackered, you're knackered, and a lot of them looked very, very tired. So I'm going to put these two performances down to Eustace not rotating properly, to be honest.
I agree. I'll not say Tom Evans's, but I agree with you. I'll not say Benjamin Mouth's, but I agree with you. Leston Page, got 2 for you. Forget away games, enjoy home games. And then one and only Juice, subs should have started, but I will end on this. Michael Edmondson, take 15 points. And I fully agree with you, Michael. That's what we've got to remember.
Absolutely, 100%. We are 8th in the league. We are in a discussion about being in with the playoffs now with so-called experts and pundits. They are mentioning our names. Genuinely, when we started this season, we discussed, and I couldn't see where our points were going to come from. And we've done well. Yes, 2 losses. I get it. It's painful. And not only that, they're poor performances. And I think that's the main thing is we're looking at poor performances with the 2 losses. But we feel like the reason for that is tiredness more than anything else. And we can sort the tiredness out. We're having a little bit of a break now. Obviously, some are going to international. I get that. But hopefully we're going to see some rotation. Hopefully we're going to see some players coming in that have been ill, been injured, and we can start showing some energy again. Like you said, the reason why we are where we are is because of energy and endeavour, and we've shown that, and that doesn't go away. That will come back.
Yeah, and Eustace is, while some of his comments I didn't quite agree with, his telling comment for me was, I'm still learning all the time about the group and the new recruits, and I've learned something else this week. I thought, oh, interesting.
I like it. I like it. I like what he says, to be honest. I don't feel like he's overly positive. He's not like the ones that comes out and they're just overly positive. I feel like he is learning as we go along. We've got Swansea after the international break now. Obviously, Swansea are in a similar position to us. I mean, they're 3 points behind us, but they haven't won in 4 games. Well, they've lost and drawn their last 3 games. So it's going to be interesting how we come out of this international break and go at Swansea at home. But we're going to preview that in the next pod. But it is the international break. So, Mark, have you got an update on who we've got going out on international call up?
Well, we do. I mean, surprisingly, it's his first ever, but Yukio Hashi has been called up to the Japan squad. He had some fair trips, Mike. Yukio Hashi is hopefully going to appear, but Japan have got 2 World Cup Asian qualifiers. He's playing Saudi Arabia over in Jeddah on Thursday. And then he's got a little trip back to Japan to face Australia in Saitama next Tuesday. So how he will be by the time Saturday against Swansea comes around, I'm not quite sure. We then go to Andy Weiman's been called back up for Austria, and they host Kazakhstan, and then they play Norway. That's Thursday and Sunday, so they're a lot earlier. He's got a full week almost rest, and obviously it's not as far to travel. Ballots Toth and Owen Beck, again called up. Toth has a couple of games Friday against the Netherlands, Monday against Bosnia. Beck is in the Wales squad. He's not yet made his debut. They play Iceland and Montenegro. Again, on Monday is the last game for them. So there's more or less a full week. Youth level, we've got Conor O'Riordan, who's opposite at Cambridge. He's in the under-21 squad for Ireland again. They play Norway and Italy. Leo Duru is on fire. He is on fire. And he's travelling to the USA under-20s camp. First time he's ever been called up. They face a double-header against the mighty Chile in Santiago. It's an international camp and a friendly. And then goalkeeper Nick Michalski has been called up to England under-18s, Mike. Wow.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Gets better for the lad. Not only has he been called up to England under-18s for the first time, they've got an international tournament in Marbella. And he's playing Sweden on Friday, and then either Netherlands or Ukraine on Monday. So Nick Michalski, living the dream.
What a life.
What a life. Mate,
what was you doing at age 18?
Just going to university in Liverpool, and yeah, just like Marbella, exactly the same. Right. So we go into Retro Rover. We all enjoy this, so I give you a little bit of a riddle, which people have asked me this. Yes, I do make them myself. Thank you very much. But I'm going to be honest. I've had a really busy week at work. It's been quite hard going. And I thought, do you know what? I'm going to see what this chat GBT is all about. And I've edited it a little bit just to fit it in. But me and chat GPT have made friends and we've come up with one. So we'll give it a whirl. So we've got, in a jersey of blue, I shot to fame. A young defender building my name. From the youth ranks, like Superman, I rose in the air. I first made my mark against a man called Didier.
Oh, jeez.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't got a clue.
I'll do it again just because I enjoyed it. In a jersey of blue, I shot to fame. A young defender building my name. From the youth ranks, like Superman, I rose in the air. I first made my mark against a man called Didier. There you go. I'll tell you that later on.
I'll be honest, I haven't got a clue. If you've got that off this, put it in the comments and say, I got it straight after, because I'll be impressed.
Stop what you're doing. 53 minutes in. Like and subscribe while you're doing that, obviously. Comment underneath if you got it. And we'll believe you because, we're trustworthy people.
100%. We trust our fans. We trust the guys that listen. Very loyal as well.
Trust our fans.
Yeah, we trust them. Not sure we should, but we do. So, Mark, there's only one topic. We've got no mailbag this week because we've talked about a couple of games and we're going to save some stuff for next week's pod.
Yes.
We've got one topic I want to discuss. It's something that's based around comments I've seen around X, on Instagram, on our stuff, on just generally all around. Do we need to panic?
Panic, no. Be concerned, I am going to say yes. And it's not an overreaction. I'm going to say why. My concerns with this team, if you go back to the beginning of the season, were Ohashi, relatively uncharted territory. I think what we've seen from Ohashi, good footballer, coped really physically really well, but he's obviously heading off to Japan now. But I'm worried about his staying power because of the season. He's already had a full season. Gay, we didn't quite know what we're going to get. All reports said, do you know what? Good in the air. We'll run the channels. Not as good with his feet. Seems to be true. We then come on to the rest of the squad, and my worry was around quality at times. So I think a lot's hinging on Cantwell. I think the case for the positive side of it is Eustace seems to have learned every time. He hasn't done this time, and that needs to be a blip from him. So should we be panicking? I would say no, because we got 15 points from our opening 9. But I think there's just a couple of chinks in the armour there that need to be not become massive cracks, for want of a better phrase. And I think that either we sort them through very good management or January is a big window. What about you?
Yeah, so I completely understand that and get where you're coming from. I don't think we should be panicking. I agree because we're doing way better than we expected. But I think that the performance against Swansea is going to be huge. Result wise, not quite as much for me. I mean, obviously, I would like the win. But it's the performance for me. If we're lackluster and play like strangers, which is unlike us, under this new Eustace regime at the start of the season, then I will be concerned. I mean, going back to the question I said to you about what's our best starting 11, I feel like Eustace knows what that is and he knows what he wants to play. It's just finding the time to kind of where everything clicks and goes into place. So I'm not panicking just yet, but that performance in the next game is going to be huge for me. But going into that starting 11, for me, Pears is going to remain as the goalkeeper because he hasn't actually done anything wrong to be dropped since Toth's come in. I think if everyone's fit, I think it's still Pickering, Hyam, Carter and Callum Britton. As much as Danny Batts played quite well, I do still think that Hyam and Carter partnership is still the strongest one. But if I was to drop one, it would actually be Hyam now for Bat rather than Carter. And
agree.
It's crazy saying that because last season, well, maybe not last season, but the season before, to think about Hyam being dropped is astounding. Would you agree with the back four?
I'd agree, and I agree with your point about Hyam. I feel really sorry for him. I think he's been sacrificed moving over to that left. For me, his first 6 months at Rovers, he was probably first name on the team sheet, and that was when he played as right centre half. And I think we need to go and buy a left-sided centre half for me. But I would pick Carter over Hyam. So yeah, I would have Hyam and Carter though. I would have Britton at right back, but and it might just be the way he started, but right now, against Swansea, I would put Owen Beck at left back, though, instead of Pickering.
Yeah, Beck's had a really solid start, hasn't he? Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think out of them, that back four, that's the position. I mean, I've said for a while now that left back's my concern position. I do think Beck has come in and done well. So, yeah, I'll get your argument there. I think I'd take your argument on that and put Beck at left back. Would you say Travis and Tronstad are the two centre mids? No one's breaking it?
Nailed on.
Yeah. Now, the interesting one. So, in that number 10 role, I think we're probably going to agree that Cantwell, if fully fit, is going to be the one taking that position. Am I right?
It should be. However, I just think the pressing, when we've been at our best, the number 10 has pressed really high. And he's been the trigger press. And I don't think that's Cantwell. However, I think when he plays on the left, he's too narrow. So he's got to be... I would put him at number 10. but I've got to see more from him, if that makes sense. I'm not basing it on performances yet. I'm
Do you
basing
think
it
it
on
could be a horses for courses kind of position, like depending who we play and depends who goes in that number 10?
Yeah. And I don't know if we're quite good enough yet to sacrifice that press. I wonder if we need to change formation to fit Cantwell in. The once for me that he's really shone was QPR, and he was a free role. I thought he did a little bit better against Plymouth than he did against Coventry, but there's only been one game for me, and that's when he's had the freedom. And I don't think we can afford to just give it him in the number 10. That said, ability-wise, that should be his position nailed down, shouldn't it?
It should be. Now, I did see him actually pressing a little bit against Coventry. Now and again, he did seem to show a bit of energy and get himself about. I mean, it was the one thing that we said, didn't we, that, you can tell he's got that quality. But we want to see when the back's against the wall, is he going to be one of the ones that's really pressing players? And I have seen moments from him. I agree with what you're saying about it not being his game. But if he does add that to his game, then I think that is making him a more complete player, and that's only going to help us.
Oh, yeah.
So I would personally have him in that number 10 because I think we do need that creative spark, because Tronstad and Travers are just not creative in the centre. They love to break it up and play the simple pass, but they're not going to be the ones that are unlocking a defence or doing something nice and sexy with the ball, which is what you would get from a Dak and obviously now a Cantwell. Left and right wing, so your options obviously are going to be JRC, if we're going to class him, but you've got JRC, Vyman, Koji Dewberry, Sigurdsson, Hedges. That I'm not missing any there, am I? They tend to be the options that we've got. Who would you have as left and right?
Going on a similar theme as Cantwell, I'd have Sigurdsson on the left. Not based off performances, off what I want to see him and talent. And on the right, I still think you've got to find place for Ryan Hedges. My problem with that is I wouldn't play them three together because you've got no mobility, really.
No, it's definitely positions where we will always have to rotate, because you've either got an old man there in Vyman or a broken man in Hedges, someone who's up and down in form in a Dolan. So, someone like a Sigurdsson, where you're just waiting for the penny to drop in him just to suddenly become the player that we've got. And then the Koji Dewberry, where you've obviously got a massively talented, pacey player there that can do something. I think we've got great depth there. And I really flick around an opinion on whether I'm happy with the position depth or not. I mean, I might have been a bit brutal summarising each player as I've just done there, but I think from what I've seen in the last couple of games, Koji Dewberry, I think, would be a nice option on that right. And Hedges, man, I love Hedges, but he needs a break. I think if everyone's fit, I'd have Hedges on the left, Koji Dewberry on the right, and Cantwell in the middle. I think that'd be my option.
That's what I would probably start the next game with.
Yeah. I just want the penny to drop with Sigurdsson. There's something there. You don't play the level that you've played and come to a middle to, I'm just going to say a middle team in the Championship of Rovers and not play. He's got something, hasn't he?
Oh, absolutely. I do think there is a case, though, for maybe Dolan playing and Hedges, and then, or even Vyman, and then getting to the 60th minute and unleashing Dolan, Ohashi, Kozia Dewberry, Sigurdsson. Changing that front. I always go back to when it was COVID and you first got 5 subs, and Mowbray changed his starting 11 to Armstrong. All of a sudden, who played every minute of every game almost for Mowbray, was on the bench, because that allowed him, with 60 minutes gone to go, right, Brereton, Elliott, Armstrong, bang, off you go. And it's so hard to play against that. And I just think that changes games for us. And I would be tempted to keep some of that in reserve. That said, so static when we've had Vyman. If we have Vyman, Cantwell and Hedges, good God, too static. Nobody's running in beyond, are they? The first time somebody ran in beyond at weekend was Rankin Costello. That's the first time in the last 2 or 3 games I can remember anybody running beyond their starting position, if that makes sense. So not only did he go beyond Cozy Dewberry, he went beyond the front man. And we don't do that enough. With nobody, Campbell never makes that run beyond the front man. So it becomes far too easy to defend against, far too predictable. Defenders can just stay in their position. And that's too easy to defend against. We've got to start making runs beyond our position, be willing to gamble a little bit. So that's why Cozy Dewberry is such an attractive proposition, isn't he? Because you would imagine he'll do that.
Well, that's the thing. I'm quite old-fashioned when it comes to my wingers. I want them to be able to dribble, have speed, have something about them to create the space and get the ball where it needs to go. And this is why I never mentioned Vyman, because as much as I rate Vyman as a player, I really think he should be thinking about, this stage of his career, maybe moving into the centre midfield kind of role and not doing the two-guy role where you sit there, pick the pass or anything like that. But it's you don't need as much speed. You need speed of thought, you need intelligence, but you don't necessarily need speed to play that centre mid role. And I think he'd be the perfect kind of player to change role and maybe drop into there. Dolan, I completely agree, coming off the bench. If you're retired left or right back and you've got Dolan coming on knowing he's just going to, dance around, you've got a yellow card written all over it, haven't you? And he's either going to break free or you're going to have to drag him down. So I do like that option. As much as I love the lad and I think he's massively talented, his form is far too up and down for me to start him. And to consider him to be a starter, he's either someone who you think, oh, do you know what, a big boy's going to come in, get him and work on him, or you know what, he's probably going to drop down into League One. It's one or the other. He's an extreme. I don't think JRC is a winger. I think.
No, I agree.
I like his size. I think he's centre mid or right back, in my opinion. I don't like him on the wing. It's for me though. I'm still just waiting for Sigurdsson to show. I mean, he's got the stats to show that he's important to the team, but it can't just be illness why he's not getting the minutes, can it?
Suggest not, wouldn't it? I mean, he's not had. He had a dodgy injury when he arrived last year. Maybe he's not robust enough for the championship. Maybe that is what it is. Maybe training's too rough, too robust. I don't know. So go on then. So we're going with. I'm happy to go with yours there. I think I'd be happy if we start against Swansea. We've got Cozy, Dewberry, Cantwell, and Hedges. I'm got
to have my boy Hedges.
Yeah.
Put comments down below what you think it should be, but I'll argue to the death about Hedges. Striker. Now this one is way tougher than it would have been before because Ohashi is tired but very talented. Gay, a lot of energy, but there's something there that's giving me a little bit of a headache. What's your starting striker?
Starting striker's Gay, just because I think it gives you an out ball if you need it. Depends how the game's going. You can see how the game goes. If not, he's just such a threat. But then Ohashi seems to do more in 30 minutes. I'll bring him on at 60 minutes. He does more in 30 minutes than probably Gay's done in the 60. But equally, he does more than he does when he starts. So right now, when I look to the bench and see Gay coming on, I've yet to think that the game's going to change. When I see Ohashi coming on, I think we could score here. So for that reason alone, I'd start with Gay and bring Ohashi on.
Yeah, I agree. I think similar mould to the Dolans and the Rankin Costellos. I look at Ohashi, where actually when I see their number go up and I see them come to the sideline, I think something's going to change and it's going to be for a positive. Yep. It's not like, I don't want to be harsh, but it's not like a Buckley, where sometimes with Buckley, he's coming on. I just don't know whether he's going to turn into prime Iniesta or he's just going to be, just a spectator. I feel like when Ohashi comes on, he's going to give someone a headache, and he's going to get himself into positions. The point that you've made constantly about how he's had this long season with Japan and then he's come to us, it's going to be interesting to see how he is next season after having a proper break, proper pre-season, and actually looking after his body as he should, and then coming on. But Gay is built for the championship. The way he moves, the way he is, his energy is very much built for the championship. I still think he's better than Sam Gallagher, a better option, than Sam Gallagher. As much as he's done, he got his goal again for Stoke that I think we was all shocked to see. But yeah, I think Gay starting. He's a handful. I just want to see him get the odd goal now for me to feel comfortable about him being our number 9 option. But yeah, the thing is we've just talked about the full 11 there, and when we're talking about them, we're thinking about the tactical different changes we'll make, like if it's not working, and it's nice to do that, because I don't feel like we've done that for a couple of years with Rovers. It's been like, right, this is the starting 11. If we don't have it, we're absolutely buggered.
Yeah, it's not necessarily even, it's difficult to pick the best 11, because I think we picked the best 11 for a game now. So I could make an argument if we were going away for a completely different 11, not completely different, but a very different 11 than the one we've just picked. I also think Harry Leonard coming back in the fold is a good thing, because he always looks a goal threat for me. There's loads and loads of things he needs to work on, but he's just got that instinct to being in the right place at the right time. Doesn't always score from that, but equally, he's a young lad learning his trade, and you can't teach that. So I think he's another option. But I just think Gay needs a bit of love right now. I think he needs Eustace to get his arm around him and say, right, you 2 weeks here, we're going to play a game behind closed doors. You're going to be my number 9. You're going to start the next few games. Yeah, Ohashi will come on, because we'll be playing 2 games in a week. But you are the main man. Come on. Even if he doesn't quite believe it, I think he needs to make Gay believe it, because he's just starting to look. He's snatching at things, isn't he?
Yeah, I was just about to say he's looking frustrated, and he seems like the kind of player that when he gets frustrated, like some players, when they get annoyed and frustrated, they play better. Like Wayne Rooney, for example, when he got angry, you knew he was going to go and do something positive. Now, I'm not comparing Gay to Wayne Rooney, but you know what I'm getting at. Sometimes, sometimes players, they really raise their game when they get frustrated. He seems like the kind of guy that is just going to get himself sent off more than anything else. He's a very jovial guy. You can tell he's loving being at the club. He just needs something to drop in for him. But yeah, I think we've. What's interesting now is football's changed. I mean, we used to talk about 4-4-2s, and that was the standard formation. Now it is this 4-2-3-1. Do you feel like we do need to change the formation? So you mentioned Campbell earlier, saying about maybe the formation would have to change. If we were to change this formation, and previously we have had 5 at the back, how would you do it?
I would go 4-3-3 at times. I think the problem with that is Tronstad may not have the mobility to play that pivot role on his own. And Travis, equally, I've said before, I don't think he's got the tactical nous. So I think we've been kind of forced to play 4-2-3-1. I think that's the problem. I think if I was going to change it, it would be on a Tuesday night against Coventry, and I'd play 3 at the back.
Yeah,
and then Gay and Ohashi up front together is what I would do, and that way you kind of go, do you know what? Yeah, we might have to defend, but we've got the fullbacks, and we've got fullbacks that we can change. So if you had, let's say, we had Britton and Pickering, and at half time you could change it for JRC and Beck, quite happily, couldn't you, as wing backs? And then even beyond that, you've got Hedges, you've got. All right, you start shoehorning people a bit then, but you Vyman could play that a push. You have got other options, so that's potentially what I would do. I prefer 4-3-3. I just don't think we've got the Rodri that can do that. That's Liverpool don't either. That's often why they play it too. So if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for us.
I say bring back 4-4-2. Much more
Well,
simple.
you're not wrong. Get Mike Bassett in charge. Let's go.
So one last question before we get the answer from the Retro Rovers. Other than obviously signing new players, is there anyone in the squad where you feel like they're going to be play a really pivotal role that's unexpected for the rest of the season? Someone that steps up and starts to play a really big role for us, or do you think what we're seeing now is what we're going to get unless we make a new signing?
I will be very interested to see Eustace's starting 11 and the people who come off the bench against Swansea, because his comments were pointed the other day, and if he has really, really learned something about those players, it'll be interesting, that won't it? I can't help but feel Harry Leonard could have something to say here. Or Hashi's had a long trip. Gay's not firing. There's a spot there for him if he wants it.
It's an interesting one. I was thinking Lewis Baker. I think Lewis Baker has the creativity from the dead ball situation. He's got experience. He's obviously a talented player.
Got the legs.
It's something that we've said. Yeah, he's got the legs. He's definitely someone that once he gets in the team, I think you said it, he won't relinquish that. So I think Lewis Baker by the end of the season is going to be someone that we look at and we're relying on. But again, guys, put in the comments down below what you think is, what's your starting 11 if everyone's fit? Who do you think is going to be pushing to be a key player that isn't at the moment? It's an interesting conversation. I do think we're going to have a January where we spend some money, cross fingers. But at the moment, obviously, just talk about the squad that we've got. But Mark, on to Retro Rovers. Oh, yeah,
just before that, let's clarify. So we're settling on Pears, Britton, Beck, Carter Hyam, Tronstad Travis, Hedges, Campbell, Cozier Dewberry, Gay. Swansea.
I think so.
Is that what we're going with? I'm happy with that. Yeah,
I think so. I think if everyone's fit, I think that's the starting 11.
If Eustace wants the weekend off, not a problem. We'll step in.
Yeah, I can wear a cap and everything. Got to do the stats on that one. How often we've won games when he's wearing a cap and when we haven't.
Right. Come on, boys. All right.
I thought I was with John Eustace then.
Well, I've not had a hair transplant. Anyway, we'll move on. Retro Rover, allegedly. In a jersey of blue, I shot to fame. A young defender building my name. From the youth ranks like Superman, I rose in the air. I first made my mark against a man called Didier.
Okay, so my first thought was Tosin, because you said young, it come from blue. So I was thinking Tosin, but then it's that Didier one. So, I can't think.
Phil Jones is Superman, Mike. Of course. Didier Drogba.
Oh,
bang.
I tell you.
Yeah.
I tell you. What's your favourite memory of Phil Jones?
It could well be smashing Didier Drogba on his debut on the halfway line. Didn't he take about 3 of them out in like one hit? I'll tell you what, I almost forget how good Phil Jones was. He's 32. I was listening to him the other day on the podcast and I thought, ooh, I'd have you back at Ewood one day. He was in the Blackburn end, in the boxes in the Blackburn end last year. Proper Rovers boy. He talks quite a lot in the podcast about his dream was to play for Rovers. He was almost happy just doing that, and then obviously it built on from there. Proper Rovers man, and you forget that a little bit. England under, so he made his debut at 18 against Nottingham Forest in the Cup under Allardyce, I think it was. Although Steve Keane claims he went to watch a reserve game and under 18 game and said, "Oh, this player must be in." What did he say? This player must be in the first team, and claimed it was him. What a crack of. So he signed a 2-year deal. He's made his debut against Forest, and we won. And they signed a 5-year deal. And he has made his start on the 21st of March against Chelsea, a month after turning 18. against Didier Drogba. And I was trying to remember because I knew the Burnley game away was very soon after. I wasn't sure if it was next. And he started at home against Chelsea after playing a tokenistic effort in the cup against Forest. That was it. So that was way, way, way before then. We had an injury crisis. In he goes. Keeps his place against Birmingham at home 3 days later. 4 days after that, Turf Moor, we go away. Yeah, Phil Jones plays again. Keeps a clean sheet. He played in midfield for us. He was good on the ball. He was almost like a combination between John Terry and Rio Ferdinand, wasn't he? He was everything you wanted in a defender. His biggest downfall for me was how committed he was, though. I was talking to a Man United fan about him at weekend, and he said they loved him, United fans. And all the memes and things, he said they were United fans who didn't go. The ones who watched did. And yeah, it put pressure on him when Ferguson said he could be the greatest ever signing and things. He said, but what summed Phil Jones up was he never learnt. So he was a good footballer. And he talked about his highlight being when they were playing Real Madrid on the Wednesday. And on the Saturday, Ferguson gave him a man-marking job in the centre of midfield against, I think he said it was Tottenham. It might have been Modric, but I can't remember whoever that was. And then on the Wednesday, he played him against Real Madrid, and he didn't give Ronaldo a kick. When Ronaldo was absolutely running the show. But he said Phil Jones didn't learn in terms of being committed. He was too committed. And he said he'd come back after, I think it was his knee, one of his layoffs with his knee, because obviously he had bad knees. He said he'd gone away at Stoke, not played for months. The ball goes up in the air on the halfway line. He runs past the centre midfielder to try and win this header that's just looped in the air. Missed it, landed on his back, went off injured. And he said, just because he was just too committed, he couldn't go, do you know what, that's your fault. He just had to dive in. But I just remember watching, I'm stood in the Blackburn end, and an 18-year-old's making his debut against Drogba, and you're all thinking, well, I've seen him once in the cup, but Jesus, this is a test. He flew in, physically caught with Drogba, but then equally on the ball, he was so composed. So composed. He was just... People forget how good he was. He was such a good player. Such a good player. Such a shame about his knees.
It is, and there was obviously discussion between fans, would you take him back if the wages were right and things like that. And he was... No one blamed him for going to Man United. We got a decent amount for him at the time, and everyone was relatively supportive. My Man United mate likes to wind me up and saying, "Where's this Phil Jones came through the United ranks? He's a good youth player for United," and he likes to ignore the fact that we created him. But he was a great player for us in that short spell. And he could have really built on. But that's the story with quite a few players for us. He just loved the game. He seemed like a genuinely nice guy. He seemed... I mean, there was people saying that, he wasn't the most intelligent person, but he seemed like he was really nice.
I mean, I don't know him personally, but from memories, I think he got sort of all A's in his exams, and when you listen to him, he's very articulate. I'd be shocked if Phil Jones doesn't make a good manager. You've got to remember, he's been out, he's had quite a lot of injuries, and in that time he's been doing his coaching badges. He's only 32. He's been doing them for a while as well, full time. He's got, when you listen to him talk and when you see him on the pitch, he's got a bit of a steel about him. He's got a presence, and he played 27 times for England, would have been more. He's won however many Premier Leagues. He's
had a career, hasn't he? To be fair to him,
yeah. I mean, I think did he win the Champions League with United as well? I'm gonna have to just Google.
Yeah, but like you said, the thing is when Ferguson comes out saying he's future England captain and all of this, it was a lot of pressure on him, but it didn't seem like it got to him. Like you said, it was more of an injury point of view than anything else.
Europa League.
I mean, I'm gutted that players like him never had the full career, because obviously the dream is you get these players that are Blackburn fans, they come in and they play for the club and they spend their whole career at the club, and you can sing, he's one of our own and all of that. And he was one that moved on. But we've always been a feeder club. You know, you get someone really good, they're always going to move on, and he was one. And I was always really proud of him. And whenever I got on Football Manager and had the chance to sign him, I always did. But yeah, cracking player.
I think when somebody moves on from your club, you want them to move to, as much as it hurts you, to reach their potential. And he went to, at the time, the best team in the country with the best manager. He went on to play for England. I think he might have even captained England, but certainly captain Man United at times. He played under every England manager he was available for. He had Alex Ferguson saying he was going to be the best United signing, Bobby Charlton saying those sorts of things. He was a lot better than many people will ever remember him for. He's won a Premier League, he's won an FA Cup, he's won a Carabao Cup, I think. He's won a Europa League. And I still think he's going to turn back up at Ewood Park in the dugout at some point. That's where this is going for me. Full circle moment. Phil Jones back in the dugout. And I think he'll make a good manager. Yeah.
Well, if he's a success, he'll definitely be a hometown hero.
Exactly. There we go.
Well, Mark, that was a good one. It's been nearly 90 minutes once again. If we go on any longer, Plymouth are going to score their winner, so we better stop it there. It was a tough one to talk about, but I think we've done it in a relatively positive way. I think we've broken it down nicely. Did you enjoy having a therapy session?
I enjoyed this 90 minutes far more than the last 2 90 minutes, yeah.
Well, it's always a pleasure, Mark. It was good to talk to you. We're going to the international break now. We'll have a special for everyone next week. But remember to like, subscribe, do all the good stuff. Any questions as well, remember the tweet goes out, but also you can email us at theblackburnend@gmail.com. It can be any questions about us. It can be about the club. It can be about general football, our opinions, anything like that. Stick it in because we are going to do a bit of a special next week. But yeah, do all the good stuff. Like, subscribe, share with your mates. Go onto their computer and like everything under their name. I don't care how you do it. Just get it spread. But for now, thanks very much, and we'll see you next week.